Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. It's been a while since I've live streamed or done anything on social media, for good reason. I think it was necessary for me to take a bit of a vacation, a bit of a break. Not so much a fun vacation, but time off for certain. In any case, today's live stream is titled The Mechanics of Magic. Why does this work? How does this work? I'm going to run through a couple of concepts here, and my intention is to answer any questions that you may have in the chat or otherwise. So peace to everyone here. Peace, peace. Hakeem. Peace, Prince Philip. Good to see you, bro. Michael Green, peace, peace. Gilly Suit 047 says, finally back, let's talk some sass. We'll leave the sass to panic.
Right.
I'm just speaking fire. Peace to Jet Jaguar. Peace to Phoenix Wolfette. Zerakam, peace, peace. So, lately, in my construction of this whole question of how does magic work and why does magic work, I had to ask myself a few difficult questions. Namely, the question being, who do I have to be in order for this information to be true? Who do I have to be in order for this information to be accurate? And the answer that I gave myself was, and by the way, you should be asking yourself difficult questions all the time. That's how you expand. The answer that I gave was, I have to be a person who understands specific frameworks, and I have to be able to employ those frameworks. So namely, when I say frameworks, what I mean is there has to be groups of information, constellations of information that have to all work together seamlessly. If you're going to be someone who evokes goetic spirits, or if you're someone who wants to do magic concerning wealth, right, gaining money, someone who wants to be proficient in relationships, or someone who wants to improve their health, there's certain beliefs that you have to have that all work together so that your inner framework is efficient and it works with your outer framework. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat. And also, if you have questions, go ahead and ask me those and I'll get to answering them, in addition to what I'm going to be covering. Hello, Anamali. Peace, peace. Matthew Watson, good to see you. Zerakam says, I have a question. Dara Holland, peace. Unicorn Universe, peace, peace. Matthew Watson says, peace, Travis. There is a Zoom link to this one this time. Yes, there is. I made a post on the website, but I'll send it to you here in just a second. Okay, so as far as when it comes to utilizing spirits, right? That's a big part of what I do in my particular class of magician, magus, whatever you want to call it. There's different classes that do different things. I deal with evocation, right? The definition of a magus is a spiritual worker who employs the use of elemental magic, astrological magic, and planetary magic, as well as evocation. All those things together aren't necessarily just to be able to summon things that make you feel good in your day-to-day life. The end result should be unification of the higher self with the lower self. If that's not the end result, the class wouldn't be magus. You'd, in this particular case, be considered a sorcerer. Now, there's a big difference between a sorcerer and a magus when it comes to evoking spirits. Why? Even though we're dealing with the same subject matter, Even though we're dealing with the same subject matter, the way that we go about doing it is different. A black magician and a magus will both evoke spirits. But the main difference is the black magician is borrowing, right? The black magician, the sorcerer, is evoking these spirits and borrowing what they can do for him. Now, when I say borrow, that means a price has to be paid back. This is why there's talks about sacrificing and all this other stuff. But ultimately, the old school understanding, you can get this information from Franz Barton's Magical Practice of Evocation. The sorcerer, the black magician, will have to pay back everything that he borrowed in the afterlife. That's why black magicians and sorcerers work with pacts, signing pacts with a certain demon, because the pact signifies that you owe allegiance to this particular spirit and you will reap the benefits of this particular spirit, knowing that when you pass from your physical form, there's going to be a certain allotment of energy that you have to pay back to that spirit or those spirits that you've worked with. So when you talk about selling your soul, that's really what we're talking about. I'm going to summon up the spirit and it's going to do XYZ for me for as long as I need it to. And when I die, there's going to be a portion of time that I spend repaying that spirit everything that I borrowed. And if that's what you want to do, that's cool. Not really my cup of tea. The difference with the magus, the critical difference, is that the magus goes beyond just summoning demons, right? I mentioned that the main goal is unification with the higher self. Crowley called it the holy guardian angel. The main difference is that when the core purpose is an alignment with the higher self, you're not borrowing. When you gain this unification with the higher self, you position yourself at a higher level of authority, and instead of borrowing, you're commanding from within. In other words, you're not selling your soul, you're utilizing your own soul, your own power to employ your own influence on the physical body. Is that clear? Is that clear, the difference that I just made, or is it complicated? Let me know.
Yeah, that makes sense that you wouldn't end up owing anything because it's all coming from you in the first place. Or it's like, I always think of it as my future self, like I'm gonna merge with it, like of this ego self. It's like, that's my future bigger self beyond this confinement.
And that's an excellent way to think about it. The higher self exists beyond time and space. So if that is the perfected self, then you could think of it as the future self, because eventually that's what you'll be. You'll also find that a lot of left-hand path practitioners or sorcerers or black magicians don't believe in God, don't believe in any type of overarching deity. But that goes hand in hand with borrowing influence from the other spirits. So to say, do I believe in God? The answer would be yes, but the answer wouldn't be yes according to what you believe God is. I don't believe that God is, Yahweh, some dude sitting on a throne somewhere judging everyone. It's more purified than that. A lot of people believe in the demiurge as God. Now that's the case. You're being borrowed instead of borrowing. Christy, peace. Dre Allah says, Trav, what's that playing in the background, bro? It's vampire music. Literally, you can type in Dracula's guest chambers. You'll find it. Zeracom says, my question is it possible that my lack of practice using my astral arms, infinite armory, that it could weaken? So what actually weakens is your connection to it. I'll put it this way. Say, for example, you religiously go to the gym and do a certain exercise routine over and over and over, the same routine every week for months, right? You're gonna have a certain connection to your practice and you're gonna have a certain connection to your results. Now, let's say you fall off for whatever reason, and it's been a month, 2 months, 3 months. When you try to go back to the gym, what happens? Whatever your answer is there, that's the answer to your question. The exercises are still there, the equipment is still there, the routine is still there. You just now have to bring yourself back up into practice. Framestar Films, peace, bro. Prince Philip says, also claiming your personal power like Solomon. Absolutely. And that's a big part of what I'm talking about here. Claiming your personal power. Again, the question is, who do I have to be in order to evoke these spirits and them actually do what I've employed them to do? Who do I have to be in order for that to be true? Garrett Patterson, peace. Dre Allah, peace. Occult Topics with the Professor. Peace and greetings, brother. Circle of Mystics. Good to hear from you. So speaking of left-hand path and right-hand path, I really beat around the bush because I don't like to label myself. I don't like to fall into a category, because what that does for me and for you subconsciously is it makes it difficult for me to expand beyond those limits. But if I had to, I'd say that I would be in a very rare category of a middle path practitioner. Most people that you hear talk about this subject matter are left-hand path practitioners. Again, that's totally cool. But what I do could be considered as middle path. And I guess I'll explain more on that at another time. But in particular, when I talked about these constellations of information, these frameworks, who do I have to be for magic to be efficient and repeatedly to have these results work out for me time after time? Who do I have to be for that to happen? And what I came down to was I have to be somebody who understands a certain number of frameworks. And of those frameworks, there's about 5, right? And I've taught a lot about these in my courses. But ultimately, those 5 frameworks could fall under the ontology. And that's the overarching viewpoint of how the universe works, right? So you have to have a map of the universe. Kabbalah is great for that. Within the ontology of what I'm talking about is the primary concept that there are 2 forces in the universe, and they are consciousness and matter. All right, so that's the backdrop. That's the foundation of the type of magic that I do, the type of work that I do. It stems from the understanding that there are 2 primary forces in the universe, and those are consciousness and matter. And from the interplay of consciousness and matter, this is where we get the multiple planes, the multiple dimensions. Specifically, I'm talking about the physical, the etheric, the astral, the mental, and the causal. Those represent graduated levels between consciousness and matter. The lower the level, the more matter. The higher the level, the more consciousness. Hence why the physical plane is very solid, and the causal plane is very not so much. What falls under ontology as well is an understanding of not just the planes of existence, not just consciousness and matter, but an understanding of what Bobby Hemmett talked about, a concept called Universe A and Universe B. Now, this is something that he brought up from studies from Kenneth Grant, and who else talked about that? I got a book here that he actually recommended in one of his videos. I mean, you can get it if you want, you don't have to. It's very nerdy, but it's called Parallel Universes by Fred Allen Wolf. It's done pretty cool here, how those letters make the book upside down or right side up. But this gives you a scientific perspective of Universe A and Universe B, if you care about that. Let me know in the chat if you've ever watched a Bobby Hemmett video where he talked about Universe B. Or, even better, if you've ever read a Kenneth Grant book where he talked about Universe B. Let me know. This is important because if you've watched Bobby Hemmett videos, especially the ones that he recorded between 1997 and 99, he talked a lot about the black hole. I don't know if that comes in focus, but I'm sure you've seen this image before. It's like a funnel with one end on the top and one end on the bottom. Focus. There we go. I'm sure you've seen that before. The understanding is that this Universe B that Bobby Hemmett talks about, or Kenneth Grant talks about, would be at the top, and the Universe A would be at the bottom. Now, the Universe A at the bottom is this incarnated realm that we reside in. This is actually everything that can ever possibly be known, namely everything that you can find upon the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and the Klipoth. Right, so it's not Kabbalah and Klipoth, it's Kabbalah and Klipoth, Ein Sof, R, and what's beyond. Now, the peculiar thing about what's beyond is that it's not a place, it's not a state, it is pure non-existence. Absolutely nothing. If you ask Bobby Hemmett, he'll say it hasn't even happened yet. It's uncreated. It hasn't happened yet. In yoga and tantra and all these studies of Samkhya, we can equate that to the state of Shiva or the state of Purusha, unconditioned consciousness. And to keep it really real, this is what we're trying to head back to. I know a lot of people just want to get revenge on their ex, and they want to summon up $1,000 to pay rent next month, or whatever the case. But ultimately, as a magical practitioner of this particular path, the goal is to become non-existent. If you've ever studied Gnostic information, you'll hear about the story of how the demiurge has, for lack of better words, siphoned a portion of life force and brought it down into his little playground and created this fantasy world. And that piece of life force cannot escape that fantasy world. You'll hear people talk on social media about how this is a matrix, how we live in a prison planet, this, that, and the third. Well, this isn't a new concept created by TikTokers. This is one of the oldest messages in mythology. In fact, this old message in mythology has been echoed in damn near every major religious text. Every one of them. You'll hear about this as the War of Heaven, the fall of the angels, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Titanomachy from the Greeks. And there was even specific battles between Ra, Osiris, Set, and Horus. What this represents, what some people will say it represents, is the fall of the old gods and the rise of the new gods, but it actually goes much deeper than that. In each and every case, a god was sacrificed. This is even found, to me personally, when I research, I always find magical concepts that root back to the Vedic tradition, the Samkhya tradition in India. And in this particular case, what you'll find is that this is the story of Purusha. There's a mythology of Purusha where he's sacrificed, he's chopped up into several pieces and dispersed across the cosmos, and reality is created from his being. This is the same outline of the person you'll find on the book cover of the Unfortunate's Mystical Kabbalah. That sacrifice has been echoed throughout time. Osiris cut up into 13 pieces, and Isis had to find his penis in order to create Horus. That wasn't the first time you heard that story, or the last. It also happened in the Greek mythology several times. And it continues to happen over and over. Prometheus, when he tried to help the human beings to reclaimed their godly nature, Zeus, the demiurge, bound him to a mountain and had an eagle eating at his liver, right? Piercing his side. Where do we find that echoed? In the Jesus-Lucifer myth. When Christ is crucified on that cross, you got the Roman soldier piercing his side with that arrow, with that spear, the spear of destiny. It's not new, it's echoed throughout time over and over and over again. So if you see a pattern repeating itself, that's a heavy sign that you need to pay attention or try to figure out what that means. Al Dickey says, so when you get to that silent, non-existent state, Brother Trav, then what's next? This will sound like a loaded answer, but once you get to that point, there is no next. The realm of time and space and doing is universe A. Universe B is the realm of being, no doing. There's no difference of, see, time is from this moment to the next moment. Space is from this point to that point. So you're leaving that into something that the mind cannot comprehend, because the mind can't exist in that state. So this is something that can't really be talked about. You'll have to find it when you get there. But that is the place. It's not heaven, it's not hell. It's nothing that feels good or feels bad, because there's going to be nothing to feel with. And it's not popular. This isn't something that you can make a campaign about and try to gain followers. It's scary because we don't know. You can't know. What I do know is, from everything that I've studied, that's the destination. Non-existence. Why do you think it is with the Buddha, with the Eastern religions or Eastern practices, that they practice detaching from the world, or I should say, they practice non-attachment? That's preparation for something. Non-attachment is practice for non-existence. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's a popular thing that you're going to want to do, but if you get serious about real spiritual practice, you'll find that all signs point to that, which is not. Questions or comments so far? Peace to everybody joining the chat. If this is a conversation that you're interested in, hit the like button. Hit the like button. Useless Familiar, peace. Useless Familiar says it's like a fish. It can't comprehend living on land. That's a good analogy. Prince Philip says, but won't it still be blissful, Travis? If we had to give it a description, we could say that. But again, I want to stress, in this state, mind cannot exist. It's mind that gives us Universe A. Universe A is largely we're trapped here not because some demiurge is keeping us prisoner, or some angry god or angry demons are holding us down. We're trapped here because of mind. Mind in itself, we use it to perceive and to cognize reality. We're addicted to it like a drug. We don't have to use it to cognize reality, but we do. And we've become addicted to it over the 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years you've been alive. Not to mention the several lifetimes that you've lived repeating this thing over and 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 over again. To expand beyond mind is to learn how to exist beyond your five senses. Can you do that? This is when I learned that astral travel and lucid dreaming is mandatory. It's not a cool thing to do. It's necessary. because that's the next step from learning how to exist outside of your five senses being awake. You sit there and you meditate, you intentionally dream, and what you're doing is you're practicing experiencing levels of consciousness that are beyond the five senses. Let me know if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
Good evening, Lasange.
Good evening, Travis.
Luxury Newman says, why would you want to be non-existent? What is the value in that? So there's not a value in it. It's a nothing. To understand this concept, it's better to think about where you already are, right? Here you are, you wake up every day, your body hurts, right? You got to get something to eat, then you got to shit it out. You got to go try to find some money to pay your bills. You got to deal with this emotional issue and that mental issue and all these other things that you cannot escape from as long as you exist within time and space. Time and space is guaranteed suffering. It's guaranteed. Matter of fact, that's the only thing that is, that's the distinguishing trademark of existence, is suffering. When you boil it all down, no matter what, everybody's going to suffer. No matter what, everybody's not going to be happy. Everybody's not going to be rich. Everybody's not going to be sexed up. Everybody's going to suffer, period. So when we talk about non-existence, we've got to understand that the condition that we're in is not the optimal condition. I'm not saying kill yourself. I'm not saying kill other people. I'm saying understand where you are in this human existence. You are much greater than your physical body. You're not a person walking around with arms and legs trying to get a new job. You are the soul of the universe. And to say what's the value in non-existence, well, I ask what's the value in being a limited creature that cannot expand past right now?
You know what I was thinking when you were talking about universe A and universe B is it's like one is completely organized around the five senses and the physical, and it's a way of organizing, whereas like astral travel and like lucid dreaming I think of as like it's not organized the same way at all as the physical. And so when you get there, you're like, I don't understand what's going on at first. You kind of have to learn this whole other way of organizing that has nothing to do with anything you're familiar with.
In fact, that's a great point. And I want to point out something else. You're absolutely right. Universe A is completely organized around the five elements. Now, these five elements exist, like I said, at different layers: causal plane, mental plane, astral plane, etheric plane, physical plane. Each one of them are wrapped around the five senses, but to a lesser degree. The lower you go, the more intensely wrapped around those five senses. The higher you go, it's more loose. The book Taught was shooting, all about the tatwas and the purification of those tatwas. You know what page I'm gonna turn to. You already know. It shows us here one of the oldest diagrams of existence, right? If you get this book, you turn to page 45, you'll see this diagram. And what it shows is exactly what you talked about. These are the five senses on the lowest level. These are the five senses on a higher level. Matter of fact, you got the five Kanchukas, another version of those five senses. And it continues to go up until you reach non-existence, which is Shiva, pure consciousness, Shakti, pure energy. But the astral plane, it also revolves around the five senses. That's why they have those five clear senses: the clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. Those are extensions of the five senses on the physical plane. But like you said, when it comes to ascending to those planes, we have to acclimate ourselves with how to navigate in that state. Which is why I say lucid dreaming and astral travel is mandatory now. It's not just something cool. It also comes from this ancient information.
This guy stole my spot here.
Yeah. It's time for more H's. Capital H's.
No, that makes sense though. I remember reading Tatwashuti, but like not. It's like I guess they are just ways of organizing. Like the Tatwas, like that makes sense. I don't know. Sometimes I need to understand something multiple times before it finally sticks.
Absolutely. We all do. Repetition. Okay, so I got a question from who said that? Dre Allah. Dre Allah says, what Kenneth Grant book does he speak about Universe B? He's got a book called Outside the Circles of Time, right? Grab this book, Outside the Circles of Time. Not an easy read, but if you want that information, read this book. Honestly, what I suggest, if you've got the time and the brain power, he wrote 9 of these books in 3 trilogies, right? This is the second trilogy. I suggest at least going through that second trilogy. That second trilogy begins with Night Side of Eden, and this is where he talks about the Clip-Oth in detail. All right, if you want to learn about the Clip-Oth, go to this book. There's a lot of new people who talk about the Clip-Oth, and most of them get their information from this guy. So you might as well go to the source. That's the Clip-Oth, and then this is Universe B. They correlate. They're very connected. They're very connected. But to answer your question, this is what you want to read. Read that and compare it with the other book that I showed, Parallel Universes, and you'll start to see the mystical aspect of it and the scientific aspect of it. Now this type of thing isn't really beginner friendly, but you know, if you give it a try, if you're really interested in it, that's what I'll say. Give it a try if you're really interested in it. It took me a couple times. It took me a long time to actually read that book. Not even gonna front. Prince Philip says, during my dreams, I'm able to travel to great alternate worlds with hotels, pools, and friends. Would the same be possible after death? In the afterlife, wouldn't it be what your state of mind is in? Good question. So according to the Vedic information, your state of mind when you die determines the direction, your trajectory, but not necessarily your destination. It determines the trajectory and the speed of where you're going and how you're getting there. But just keep in mind, what you described there, that's cool, right? I've done it, we've all done it, but that's not going up, that's going parallel, right? I could sit here, cut on my computer and cut on The Sims and create the same thing you just described, right? I can create a whole new group of friends with pools and parties and all kind of cool stuff and recreate myself. You can do that here. That's going parallel. When you die and you create an alternate reality for yourself to exist in, that's the same thing, which shows that that's not the point. If the point is liberation, we're talking about being liberated from that, being liberated from desire and need. Why do we create these alternate realities for ourselves? Because there's an unanswered desire, an unanswered need, right? I didn't fulfill everything in my life, so I'm going to create this as a scenario that I can fulfill it. This is a description of karma. Now, what happens, unfortunately, is that we get too engrossed and immersed in this trying to fulfill those unfulfilled wants and needs. And instead of going up and out, we just go left and right and create other realities. So yes, you can do that if that's what you want to do. But like I mentioned, the Eastern practices, they talk about non-attachment for a reason, because you want to expand upward and out of having to recreate reality for yourself. Like I said, it's not a demiurge keeping you prisoner. It's not some matrix. It's the mind. It's the mind and its tendency to attach to the things it likes and to the things it doesn't like.
I think something too, if you were going to be creating that without a body, like most of the dream stuff that we experience is just like a byproduct of the body. So if you stopped having a body, you would have to know how to create that all on your own. So you'd have to be even better at manifesting. Well.
Yeah. Imagine being in that state and having insecurities about your manifestation power. You're gonna get some help, but it won't be the help that you probably want. Again, it's like playing The Sims, right? If you don't know how to play the game, just clicking on stuff and the game will help you. It won't be the best experience you got. But when you know how to do everything, you can really make a paradise for yourself. But still, the point isn't to have, y'all talk about talking sass and Brother Panic. Brother Panic says, it's not about an economic plan. It's not about we the people got to get back together, right? It's not about Black Lives Matter. It's about expanding past this human condition. Not making it better, expanding past it. Straight Panther says you'd have to master imagination. That's why we're doing this magic. That's why we're summoning spirits. That's why we're doing tarot. That's why we're meditating and doing all these things. You're strengthening your third eye. You're strengthening your powers of visualization. Exactly, brother. Exactly. Because people ask me, like, every now and then when I start talking about demons, well, Trav, if I'm God, why I gotta summon demons? Why I gotta summon some external power? You're looking at it from the sorcerer perspective, the black magic perspective. You're not borrowing. You're utilizing aspects of yourself that you have not utilized before. That's like saying, why do I need my legs to walk? I'm God. You're in the third dimension. How else are you gonna move? You have to utilize what you're endowed with. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Or as they used to say in the old days, check. Thank y'all for smashing that like button. Let's keep going if you haven't done it. Michael Green, thank you. I appreciate your donation. Michael Green says, is Taught with Shooty a beginner practice? You can absolutely do this as a beginner. In fact, I highly suggest you start there. Why? Because there's a lot of other avenues that are filled with gobbledygook. And this is one of the most pure books that I've ever read. Pure as far as intention. She ain't trying to sell you something. She's not trying to promote herself or her. She's just telling you straight up what the science is. You don't find that very often. So when you do find it, you got to cherish it and respect it. That's how I see it, at least. That's a good analogy. Michael Green says, Universe B nothingness is like the command prompt on Windows. All the other programs, Universe A, come from it. It's all programs and all potentiality, all there can be, but it is not. Right. Right. Moby, peace. Good evening. Clipoth Quest, greetings. Prince Philip says, wouldn't up and out be lonely? So again, that's the mind talking. That's the ego talking. Because the mind and the ego sees itself as separate from the rest of the universe. There is no lonely if you realize that you are that which you seek. Put it this way, man, like when you're hanging out with people in person, you have your certain friends and you do certain things because you get something from them. They make you laugh, they make you feel good, or you feel like the leader of the group, or you feel like the follower of the group, or you get some role play that you need. Notice that it's not them people giving it to you. It's you using them to bounce off and reflect off of. Fast forward to today, we're all on our cell phones talking to people that we've never met and probably never will meet in person, and the same thing happens. We send a couple of digital text words to somebody, and we're still able to pull up that same juice, that same energy. And fast forward to tomorrow, with AI becoming as intense as it is, you won't even need to talk to people. You'll just be having your AI friends, still getting that same sense of companionship, because it doesn't come from other people. It comes from you. It comes from you. So the sooner that you realize that, you won't need anybody else to do anything unless you want to, but you don't need anyone else because it all comes from you. Happy, sad, successful, whatever. That's an inner feeling that you generate, and you allow yourself to feel it based on whatever symbol you use. You might need an award to tell you that you feel successful. You might need a friend group or some likes on your post or whatever. But notice that you're the one that's doing it. So up and out, it's not lonely once you realize there isn't anybody else but you. You can't say that at the ego level. You can only say that at the God level, the higher self level. And I think that's why this particular path is very lonely, because it forces you to go into that loneliness state until you realize it's not loneliness. You're just addicted to using other people to feel like you're not alone. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Check.
It's in the breaking of all patterns. I mean, this is actually what I've been dealing with, particularly today. But it brought to my perspective in a essence feeling way what was like to be set on a certain on the rounds of a beaten track, and how going beyond that and even outside the periphery of that filled me with a sense of freshness, because I wasn't walking unusual, untrodden paths, but I was able to see what was around me. I was able to see what was the beaten track. The road was unfamiliar, but it was also filled with more opportunities and with more perspective itself. So the feelings of suffering, the feelings of loneliness really, at least for me, came from having broken away from pretty much everything that I knew and redefining how I wanted to live my life without fully understanding what I was doing with myself. Because now that I am on a new track, that I am walking through unfamiliar places, what I'm doing is actually following the pattern that I have set in place. Now I have to learn the ways to walk that kind of path, and that's going to take me to a path that's going to require that I keep on learning on the spot and keep adapting, because that's new to me. It's the road of the unknown, and it's still governed by patterns. But the pattern that you follow is the pattern that you implemented when you broke away from the old pattern. And I'm so glad I realized that today. I put that on paper, because that was groundbreaking, truly. And I now have something that I can use consistently in order to guide myself on the kind of pattern and quality of life that I have always wanted. It gives me a certain kind of model so that I no longer feel lost when I make those kind of changes. And believe me, I go to transformations regularly just because I need to find out how to navigate the world, how to navigate my life, and how to employ my mind to be my best friend and best companion.
Yes.
And I could not even rely on the patterns of my family or my culture of origin. And because I felt that I was ejected from those things too, I had to find my own way in that unknown. I feel so free right now. Like after everything that has happened, finally something that I can actually grasp and find new symbols to use and get on with my life. Goodness gracious.
I love it. That's the key right there also. You just said something that's advanced. Finding new symbols for this new aspect of your life. Remember how the subconscious mind works, right? It speaks in symbols, relationships, and relationships of symbols. So for you to finally break out of that pattern that you just talked about, that pattern that you've been doing over and over and over, even though you're changing and you're evolving, there's still certain patterns that you haven't been able to break free from. But then finally doing so, you come to recognize that this is new territory and it needs a new language. It needs new language, not just for your ego, but for your subconscious mind as well. Do that. Please keep going. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Beautiful. Speaking of which, so I was talking earlier about these 5 different frameworks, and I went over the first one, which was ontology, and that's where we got into talking about consciousness and matter, the universe, being, the planes of existence. Well, there's another one of those frameworks that is communication, right? Communication is crucial if you're going to call yourself a Magus, because depending on these different planes and levels of existence that you know about now, when it comes to communication, there has to be a language established. Now, that starts with concentration and meditation, because where attention goes, energy flows. If you're not able to concentrate, you might not be able to stick around for these conversations. I've had conversations with angels that have gone on for months, right? Because when you're dealing with entities from outside of time and space, it's not like this conversation right now in a span of a couple of minutes. We're talking about a correspondence that goes on for a very long time. And if you don't have the concentration to keep track, you know, what are we doing? Most people have a short attention span. So when you deal with powers, forces, and intelligences that are very expanded, you're gonna have to be able to train yourself to concentrate for longer periods of time. It's just like this. Say, even if we didn't want to talk about angels, say it like we want to make it less spooky, right? If you're doing your rituals for manifestation or whatever, what are you going to do when you do a ritual and then forget that you even did it? Now you're not looking for the results when they come, and you're going to mess around and say, oh, it's not working. I'm not good at this. Concentration is a key part of communication. And next to that is symbolic language. You have got to have an understanding of how to communicate symbolically. It's mandatory. You cannot do magic repeatedly, efficiently, without having a language of correspondences. That's why I say all the time, you got to expand your library of correspondences. I got a book for that.
Would you be able to give some examples of symbolic language?
Hell yeah. Absolutely. So, just today, and it can get pretty complex because you're dealing with yourself, right? Most of us human beings, we communicate through memes. Memes is the primary way that we communicate with each other. And I don't just mean SpongeBob and shit. I mean like inside jokes, shared patterns between each other. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation if you guys didn't know some of these words and concepts. And some of the new people coming in here are probably confused, right? Wrong book. Well, anyways, Llewellyn makes a book about symbols and correspondences. I'll pull that up in just a minute. But answering your question, just today, you know, I went for my walk, and on my walk I passed a gas station. And to be honest, in my head, I was supposed to be focusing on gratitude, and I was supposed to be focusing on the next steps for my life. But instead, I kind of got into a place of, what's the word? Not really complaining, but really going in a direction I really shouldn't have been going in. It wasn't very productive, and it wasn't very useful or appropriate. And as I'm walking, kind of embarrassed to share this story, but I'll share it for the example. it recently rained, so there's this big puddle and everything's kind of muddy, and I'm wearing flip-flops. So I call myself, after I'm going through this whole spiel in my head, I try to jump over this puddle. So with these flip-flops, I landed with both feet on the ground, but one foot hit the squishy side of the mud, and I kept my balance, but both legs went both directions, boom. So I did this split in this huge puddle. It was totally painful, totally awkward, and there's this whole car lot of people looking and laughing. And, you know, I had to get myself up, brush myself off. I think to me that was a symbol of, I need to get my mind right, because what's happening in here has an effect out here. Somebody else might have taken that symbolic language as, oh, I've got bad luck, things are going bad for me. I took that as, you're better than this, get your thought process correct, because everything you think has a direct effect on your real life. My knee still hurts. But then I went inside and I quickly, you know, got that message. And the first thing I see, this guy holds the door open for me, and he's got this shirt with a big ass spider on it. So again, the spider is a symbol for me, which communicated something to me as well. Okay, this means that I'm on the right track. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And thank you for comedy in there too. I'm gonna admit I laughed pretty hard at the visual that was conjured, but I'm very happy to hear that you're okay. But it was a great example of that was an awesome example. And I love how you tied it up with the synchronicity. Oh, that's the cherry right there.
Yeah. Imagine jumping over the puddle and landing in a split, not on purpose. Oh my God. With the audience.
That sucks because you're not actually supposed to do the splits. But
Right.
I would, you know, how I would have taken it is when I do stuff like that, I feel like I'm entering my fool era, like that kind of wisdom. Like,
Okay.
I have to laugh at myself, because if I don't laugh at myself, it'll just keep happening. But when I'm just like, oh no, it's my turn to be freaking foolish right now, then it just kind of wears off, and I'm fine. But it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that.
Right. See, the old me I'd have still been beating myself up over that. Oh man, you're so stupid. I can't believe you did that. They all think that I'm this and that. Who are they? These people are in and out. They don't give a damn. But yeah, so notice how it's a physical experience, yes, but you determine what it means. That's a huge part of having a symbolic language. You have to be able to interpret the events in your life appropriately. I didn't say wishful thinking. I didn't say just make everything happy and positive. You got to be able to interpret everything correctly. That wasn't just me trying to make myself feel good. No, I identified that just before that happened, I was thinking thoughts that were not useful or appropriate. And immediately, something happened that snapped me out of that state. It was a pattern interrupt. You guys might know that from NLP. It was a pattern interrupt. And that was an opportunity for me to reframe in a way that was useful and appropriate. And right after I did that, I had a symbolic gesture of positive affirmation, the spider symbol. So if you have in your mind that different things in your life that you see mean certain things, you're now starting to build a conversation with reality. You know, a lot of people start out with 1111 on the microwave, or 222 on your phone, or 12345. It doesn't mean anything specifically. Like, I could sit here and tell you, 333 means master teacher and 1111 means doors open. I can tell you all that, but that's what it means to me. You have to have your library of correspondences figured out. Now, some of them do. Some of these libraries are shared, yes, but ultimately it's up to you. Michael Green, thank you for your donation. Michael Green says, should I begin with Tatwashuti or Dharana Darshan? And any good books on energy body work? Both of those books are good on energy body work. Matter of fact, both of those books are the only books you need on energy body work. But out of the two, I'd say start with Dharana Darshan, because like I just said, concentration and focus, meditation, that's going to be that's the actual sword that you're using to slice through the nonsense of reality. So you want to get your concentration up with Drana Darshan, and you want to get your Tat Washuddhi up when it comes to working on your energy body. Those two books are really the only two you need. Unless you're looking for entertainment, they got a bunch of stuff that they're ready to sell you. ZJ asks, have you ever felt like you were going crazy? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a big part of that stems from, there are some of us, even myself at my core, we look to the outside world for validation, and we look for the outside world to tell us that we're doing a good job or not, right? Now, where that can be a flaw is that when you're living a life and you're doing something that is different from the people around you, so they cannot give you positive feedback because they simply don't understand. So you start to feel crazy.
That right there.
A lot of us go through that. And a lot of us go back to where we came from because we can't handle that pressure. But like I said, I think it's necessary because it teaches us how to be self-sufficient. Not so much fuck everybody else, but more to understand, you know what? These people don't even live on the same planet as me. I'm doing something really different here, and I can't ask for help. I have to figure it out. So yeah, if you do feel like you're going crazy, especially when it comes to this self-reflection and self-understanding, hey, you might have to sit down in the mirror and talk to your damn self. I've done it many, many, many times. I'm probably gonna do it again. Sometimes you are all you got, for now.
One of my old mentors told me that some of the most demons you ever face in your life.
You the audio is extremely low. Could you repeat that?
Is this
Much better.
okay? Thank you. Yeah, one of my old mentors told me that some of the most ferocious demons you will face are the demons of oneself. Right? The ones that are the internal ones, like that. So, just the person who was talking about feeling going crazy. I mean, demon in that context, not in the other way. Is how I'll just limit my speech there.
Yes. Hell, if you ask me, the only demons you'll encounter are yourself. That's a good quote. Harold Potter, peace. Azrael Walker, peace, peace.
The pressure of that in specific is what also causes the suffering. And you have to recognize that you've implemented a new pattern, and that the quality of that new pattern is the thing that you've got to follow now into the unknown. Learning everything you have to learn on your way out of the things you've known. And because you're doing that, that sets you apart from everything else. And that may feel lonely. And that may not conjure up much understanding from your peers or the rest of the people in your life. Because you've thrown yourself into a completely different direction, and now you've got to figure that out.
Yes.
It's stressing. I mean, stressful.
Yes, easily stressful. And that's the thing. The ancient Buddhists tell us desire is what causes suffering. We desire, that's the thing, like we're in this human experience. We desire to have people that we can fellowship with, right? If you guys were present for that book read of W.E. Butler, Magick, Its Ritual, Power, and Purpose, he talked about these 3 centers that animals, and particularly human beings, have, and they corresponded with the root chakras. That was the point that I was trying to make. At that root level, the first desire is that desire for survival, right? We will do whatever it takes to survive. Animals and people, a healthy person. We're not going to just sit there and die. We're going to do whatever we can to try to survive. The next energy force within us is that energy force to create, and it expresses through most people as the sexual urge, which is why we have a very overly sexual culture right now, because that energy source is what everybody has, and it doesn't have a channel to express itself in a very healthy way, so it tries to express itself whatever way it can. The third channel is this need for fellowship, this need for the herd to be together in a group. It's within all mammal types of beings, and again, if we don't have a healthy channel to express that, it causes inner problems. So even us on this solitary journey, we still have those energies of needing to connect with others. It's about learning how to direct those energies properly. We all desire to have somebody to understand us, to talk with, to be a part of our lives. We all desire that, but it's how we deal with that desire that matters what happens next. Stomach chakra. So we talk about stomach chakra work. That's what it is. .508 says, what were the 2 books that he mentioned? Scroll up to Michael Green's post. It's highlighted. Taught with Shudi and Dharana Darshan. Wow, peace and greetings, Nuru. I haven't seen your name in years. Good to see you. Nuru says, Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Facts. Sometimes it's society that's sick when you feel crazy. Adjust your reference point to within. Peace. That's a good point. Sometimes it's society that's sick when you feel crazy. Adjust your reference point to within. Hold on, let me grab that book about correspondences that I mentioned. Actually the book, Llewellyn's Complete Book of Correspondences. This is a good place to start if you don't have your own, right? Me, I particularly have come up with my own correspondences through the course of time, but this is a good jump start. It's good because it lists, you see how thick it is. It has many different categories of correspondences. Let's see. And again, understand this isn't the end-all be-all, but it's a great starting point. We got the plant kingdom, we've got the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom. So of course you got different stones, different herbs, different animals. You got different deities. They got the astrological timing, and then other miscellaneous correspondences. So all that in one book. Check that out. Shout out to Isaac McCoy for recommending that to me. Framestar Film says, birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. That's a quote from Alejandro Jodorowsky. Again, that's a good one. So the whole thing is like, you have to remember where you're at. Like the dude or the person earlier asked, what's the value in non-existence? And my approach to answer that was to take into consideration where you currently are, right? And understand that this is not the optimal situation. Likewise, when it comes to thinking you're crazy, before you start turning all that negativity on yourself, take into account where you are, right? Look at the world and the society and the culture. Would you call that a measuring stick for sanity? If you cut on your phone and you look at these people out and about, you know, at your workplace, at your school, wherever, is that the measure of what you consider sanity and normal? If it's not, then how can you call yourself crazy compared to that? Sheesh. I had to start unfollowing some people just because some stuff I just don't want to see anymore on my phone. I don't have to see that. But anyways. Anyway, so I was talking about these different frameworks that one must understand in order to consider themselves a magus. Now, we started with ontology, which is the overarching view, the understanding that there's consciousness and matter, understanding that there's different planes of existence between the fellowship of consciousness and matter. That's where we get the astral plane and the mental plane, causal plane, etheric plane, and physical plane. I talked about universe B, which was this realm of non-existence that hasn't really happened yet, and it will not happen. It is the state of nothing. It's not a better place. It's not a different place. It is no place, and it is no time, and it is non-existence. This is what all the ancient traditions talked about as the highest realm. So understanding all that, I also talked about communication. Communication dealing with concentration as its integral key. And knowing that having a language of symbols is crucial. Because these spirits and these forces and these different levels of intelligence, these different planes, they don't speak English or whatever language you speak. They speak the universal language of symbols because there's a shared consciousness between all human beings and all sentient creatures. There's a shared consciousness. If you take all the years, decades, centuries, millennia that are stacked up of lives coming and going, there is a consistent use of symbols to communicate. The first recorded communication of human beings found were pictorial symbols, and it continues to this day. We still communicate with pictorial symbols. That's the true communication of the human spirit, not words. Symbols. So get your symbols correct, get your library correct. So really the next, the third framework, really the second framework, I just went out of order, but the next framework would be the methodology, right? So we understand the territory, we understand that we need to communicate in a certain way. Methodology. And I taught about this in my spirit summoning master system. For those of you who taught that, I had 7 major pillars of the magus. And those 7 major pillars are almost like my personal 7 hermetic principles, the 7 magus principles, which would be correspondence, right? That deals with the communication. Correspondence is key. You've got to be able to relate the as above, so below. You've got to understand how the objective reality reflects the subjective reality. You've got to understand the link between the dualities, consciousness and matter. Wherever there's a duality, you've got to understand the communication between the two. Correspondence. Next is consistency. Consistency. This is not a one and done thing. Regardless of whatever magic you're doing, there has to be a level of consistency about you. You don't just do a ritual and then don't touch it and never do anything ever again. It's usually something that you do on a repetitive type of schedule. It may be sporadic or it may be exactly on time, but consistency is key because that's how you keep it. That's how you imprint it upon the subconscious mind. Repetition is what it's called. So we got correspondence, we got consistency, clarity of purpose. Again, this is key. These are my 7 main principles for the magus. You got to have clarity of purpose. So what that means is that you have to know why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. Why are you doing any of this? What's the intention? Is it just so you can see if it works? I'm not so sure if that's a strong intention. But no matter what, there has to be a knowledge of why you're doing what you're doing. So correspondence, consistency, clarity of purpose. Then we've got resonance versus dissonance. What resonance versus dissonance is a new way to understand how these things are happening. The old way is thinking about good versus evil. You'll see most people have this conflict in their minds where they think that all of life is this battle between good versus evil. This is false, and it's also harmful. It's harmful because with your limited view of good versus evil, you're going to categorize things that you don't like as evil, regardless of what they actually stand for, regardless of what their principles actually are. Just because your personal ego doesn't like it, you're going to classify it as evil. It's incorrect, and you're robbing yourself from crucial experiences that you need to evolve. Just like if we're dealing with different spirits, like say for example my example earlier, whenever I slipped in this puddle and got myself all wet with mud, I could have said, oh, that was evil, that was bad luck. No, I was not resonating properly with my intention, so I experienced dissonance. So notice how nobody's an enemy and nobody's a hero. I simply was out of order, and it was a reminder to get myself back in order. So again, correspondence, consistency, clarity of purpose, resonance versus dissonance, not good and evil. You either resonate with it or you are dissonant with it. Number 5, context versus content. Very important to understand. You've got the context, the layout of a thing, and you've got the content that fills in the gaps. For example, you might have Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Sprite, Dr. Pepper. Those are different types of drinks. Those are content. But the context is a soft drink, right? A soft drink. So that is helpful when it comes to trying to understand how different spiritual principles make sense in your reality. So like say, for example, if you're looking at the Bible and you're seeing these old Bible stories and these people living by certain rules, a lot of people just generalize that stuff and say, oh, that's outdated, we don't need it anymore. But to properly understand it, you have to put it into context. What they were doing was the content that fills a certain context. See, these principles help you to extract the most amount of useful data. In fact, the next principle is useful and appropriate. Whenever it comes to me doing anything in life, I ask myself 2 questions. Is it useful? Is it appropriate? If it's useful and appropriate, I do it. If it's not useful, if it's not appropriate, I don't need to waste my time with it. How do you know if it's useful and appropriate? Well, let's go back to your clarity of purpose. What's your point of doing any of this? You judge if it's useful and appropriate according to your point, not based on what someone's opinion is. So again, when it comes to this methodology section, correspondence, consistency, clarity of purpose, resonance versus dissonance, context versus content, useful and appropriate, and finally state control. Maintain your frame. Maintain your frame. When you're living in the real world, you have to deal with real people and real situations, and you're also trying to learn spiritual principles, you're trying to learn magic, how to work with spirits and all this other stuff. You've got to be able to maintain your frame, because there's going to be many, many occasions where the real world will potentially have an emotional impact on you that could disturb your studies, that could disturb your practice. So it's crucial to maintain your frame, or you risk not getting the optimal education in your practice. So again, like I said, I was asking myself, who do I have to be in order to be very successful at magic and evoking spirits? The answer that I got was I have to be a certain person who understands certain frameworks. And those certain frameworks are the ontology, which is consciousness versus matter, the different planes of existence, universe B, the methodology, which is those 7 principles I just mentioned: correspondence, consistency, clarity of purpose, resonance versus dissonance, context versus content, useful and appropriate, state control. I talked about communication, and that deals with concentration and meditation. That deals with symbolic language, divination, astral travel, that type of thing. The 4th would be authority. right? You have to have a certain level of authority. I saw Prince Philip earlier talk about how doing Solomonic magic with the goetia, you have to have a certain sense of authority. Well, that's important, but you got to understand how that works. You don't just say, oh, I'm the big bad god and you must do what I say. That's false confidence. This authority, this magical authority, has to come from a real place. And the only way that confidence can come from a real place is through experience and through knowledge. When you know who you are and you've got evidence of who you are, you have no choice but to realize your authority. So when it comes to the authority, this is where self-deification comes into play, where you understand the connection between you and your higher self. And that connection between you and your higher self will cause three things to happen. Your connection with your higher self will cause you to come into alignment with elemental forces, which are the elemental spirits that are around all of us all the time. That'll cause you to come into alignment with your celestial forces, which are your planets, your astrology, and all those other influences, right? And what happens when you come into alignment with those, you start experiencing what you call good luck, synchronicities, right? It doesn't just happen. It happens because you're in alignment with the forces that influence your physical reality. And third, you'll start to have a clear criteria for success. What does that mean? That means I know for a fact when I'm doing correctly, when I'm going in the right direction. It's not a guess. If you don't have a clear criteria for success, you could be going in the right direction and not realize it. But I know I'm doing this ritual and I want to get this result, and these are the ways that I know that it's working. When you have all that mapped out in your conscious mind, you'll start to develop that authority because you start to develop confidence and experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So like your confirmation would have been the spider sign, but like for me, it's always like it's always when I think I'm screwing up too, I'll have a deja vu, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'm on the right track because I wouldn't be in the right place for the deja vu if that all was a mistake, or it might involve somebody. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have hung out with that person. Then they're in my deja vu, so it's like, oh, well, it's at least I'm doing something. So that's my personal confirmation, but sometimes it feels like things are going wrong, but I get confirmation.
Perfect. Because that's something that we all experience, deja vu, and you have an answer for that. And how wonderful would it be to start having criteria for success that's under your control? For example, you're going to go to sleep every night. You know you're going to dream. What if there was some criteria for success that you could pull out of that? An example for me is I know that if I go to sleep and I have a dream, if I remember what happened, okay, that's cool. But what I consider a criteria for success of my lucid dreams is if I could bring back information and actually remember it and write it down.
Yeah, totally. And it's like over the years, like if once you achieve something, you like try something harder, right? Yeah. Like for me, when it was like I would have dreams, I was like, that actually seems like the future sometime. And I would try to pin it down. Like, can I remember what season I was dreaming about? Can I remember what temperature I was dreaming about? Can I remember what the light was like? Can I remember what plants were growing? And if I practice, like then I'm doing good. So I can't like half the time, but sometimes I can remember that kind of detail.
Yeah. And you've got the criteria. So, I mean, all it takes now is just practice, right? Okay. So, those 5 frameworks that must be understood in order to be successful with this type of magic that I do, this middle path magic, this whatever you want to call it. Ontology, which is understanding the lay of the land, consciousness, and matter. You get that from Samkhya. Methodology, which is understanding the 7 principles that I stated. Correspondence, consistency, clarity of purpose, resonance versus dissonance, context versus content, useful and appropriate, and state control, right? Maintain your frame. Authority, which is understanding who you are through experience and knowledge. And with that, you'll develop a criteria for success. You'll start to gather elemental balance. You'll start to gather celestial balance, which is the influence of the elements. Good luck, essentially. Coincidence control, synchronicities, right? So ontology, methodology, authority, communication. Concentration is crucial for communication. Having a symbolic language is crucial for communication. And finally, the last framework that must be in place. There's a lot of things that you could do, but one of these 5 are the ones that you must have for consistent success. The 5th one is energy manipulation. There's got to be an understanding of the etheric plane. There's got to be an understanding of how the chakras connect you between the physical plane and the etheric plane, right? The chakras are what creates your biofield, right? And this is, I talked about having a dream and being able to record information. Very recently, I had a dream where I was being educated and I was being taught, and I was able to come out and take notes on everything that I learned. That was a really cool achievement for me. I was very proud of that. But one of the things that was talked about was a biofield, and I never heard that concept before. But essentially with the chakras and everything, this biofield is the current state of those chakra centers, all your memories, your intentions. This is essentially your aura. So all these things are a certain flavor, a certain temperature at any given moment. So when we talk about psychic reading of people or reading someone's aura, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at that biofield. You're looking at the state of their memories, their mood, their intentions, and how their chakras are circulating. But when it comes to energy manipulation, you got to understand how to go into trance and how to build up that energy, how to balance that energy, and how to disperse that energy. There has to be an understanding of how to move that energy in and out. So when you've got these 5 frameworks in place, by the time you really understand these 5 frameworks, there's no question about working with spirits or manifesting or doing anything, because you get it. You got a system to work with now. You don't have to ask, oh, is this a good demon or a bad demon? Is this an imposter or am I being manipulated? Because you've got resonance versus dissonance. You've got your clarity of purpose, right? You understand the symbolic communication. Once you have all of these things in place, you are on track to really having this unification with the higher self and mastering low magic. That's the formula for mastering low magic, period. Notice I didn't say anything about buying a crystal or buying some herbs or doing anything external. It's having your mind right. Having your mind right so that you can process this data. So that way, if a spirit comes to you, you have a way to translate what's being said and how to apply it. Is it useful and appropriate? What's the symbolic language that was used? What are the symbols that the spirit communicated to me with? Since I'm able to concentrate, I know that I did that ritual 3 days ago, and now I got a symbol that corresponds with my intention for that ritual. You see, all this stuff works together. It all works together. When you have these 5 frameworks in place, you can work with any spirit. You can summon any spirit without fear of having to, whatever these people talk about. Oh, the threefold law and all that other stuff. But having all this stuff under control, what's the point? Having all this stuff under control now allows you to have a mind that's ready to tackle high magic, which is essentially getting to that universe being, getting up out of here. Bobby did it. Crowley did it.
On the topic of synchronicity, no joke. I was looking up biofield tuning just yesterday and today. So there's a confirmation for me. Yep. Because I've been doing lots of readings for people, and sometimes that can, when you're scanning other people's energy bodies, it can get your body a little out of balance sometimes. So
Right.
I need a quick tune-up.
See, I ignored that for a long time, and it took a toll on me. It took a heavy toll on me.
Have you ever had biofield tuning with tuning forks before?
No, not specifically.
Another time, when I'm not riding my bike, I will share a story that I think you and many others will enjoy.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Sheesh. Yeah, that's definitely something you should look into. I don't know much about it as far as mature research. It was given to me in a dream, and that's the info that I got. But hell, maybe I need to start researching in that direction too.
To kind of tie it back with what you're saying, and if you have to have the various factions in which you so clearly articulated in harmony with one another in order to obtain your goal, right? So with biofield tuning specifically, if you want a shortcut, for example, in the hypothetical situation that there's energy that's lodged in your energy body somewhere, perhaps a concentration of some kind from a traumatic experience, or maybe there was something that happened relatively recently to someone or something, and you have yet to been able to effectively peacefully detach from that energy that's lodged in your body, and you want a quick way. Biofield tuning with a sound healer or a tuning fork like that can really help to get your chakras tuned up.
I wonder if I've been doing that with certain binaural beats I've been listening to.
Potentially, I don't think it has the same effect with binaural beats. It would have to be hitting your entire body, the entire vibration from the binaural beats, right? Whereas
I have some really good speakers. But who knows? Who knows? I'm gonna look into it. I don't know. You probably know more than I do at this point. Peace, Capri. Glad to see you. Louis, peace. Ethace, peace. All right, well, I hope that you guys got some useful information out of what was talked about here. It won't be the last time you hear about this. For most of you, well, for some of you, it wasn't the first time you heard about this stuff. But honestly, this is my philosophy, and if I had to write a book about how to do magic, hint, hint, this stuff would be included in it. So, I got a question for the people in the chat. Like, how many of you guys are still interested in working with the goetia? I know there's like 100 books about goetic spirits, and I have most of them. But how many people are still interested in working with the goetic spirits and how to do it in such a way that you could get consistent results? Let me know in the chat as far as I'm still interested in that, or I'd like to hear more information about goetia stuff. There's a couple different directions that I could go in right now, and I think it would be fair to kind of ask the people who actually watch my videos what kind of stuff you'd like to see. But yeah, let me in the chat. I am interested in goetia stuff, or I am not. Again, if you enjoy this music, I have nothing to do with it. But if you want to find it on YouTube, you just type in Dracula's Guest Chambers. The channel is Elemental Sound Works. Dracula's guest chambers, the bride's room. Oh, look at that. The viewers and the likes are actually balanced. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Quite a few people said they're still interested. That's good. To be honest, that's one of the directions that I want to go into first. You know, we're getting into spooky season, October. I think this would be a perfect time to really dig into some goetic magic.
Oh, October has a Friday the 13th, by the way.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, we got to capitalize on that.
Yep. I don't really know how to work with goetia, except they randomly pop up. Like one of them will pop up, and I'll be like, well, this is interesting, and I'll look it up and I'll be like, wow, this is information that is relevant to me right now. Like, thank you, random meme online or something that brought it up to me. So like that's the only way that it happens right now.
It's that subconscious mind calling forth what it needs to see in order to pull out what it wants to pull out. Love it.
Yeah, I don't know if I should actually push it or if I should just let it keep doing its randomness.
That's a good question. I like a mix of both, to be honest. But again, like I said, my example with like playing The Sims or any video game, if you have limited knowledge on how to play, your experience is kind of limited. So the game will have to fill in the gaps. But the more you learn, the more, not only the more control you have, but you actually know what's the right thing to do at the right time. That makes sense. I keep mentioning The Sims because somebody got me into it not long ago. And I swear, that's the perfect game if you want to understand what it's like being a higher self with multiple incarnated bodies at a given time.
I still miss the like SimCity 2000. Like in my mind, I'm hovering over the city like tornado, aliens.
Well, it's intricate now. You get individual people and families and neighborhoods, like specific people in the neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. You know, it's the God complex thing. I want to zoom out, not zoom in.
Yeah. It was a cool experience just to kind of see. I've never played it. I know it's been out forever, but somebody mentioned it and I played with it for a little bit. It was free. So it was cool. Cool experience. I definitely saw
I feel like a sim. I feel like those little bars are constantly going down.
Oh.
I don't want it. I got my own little Sims running around. I can't stop them.
Goodness gracious. Friday the 13th.
There's a Sims expansion that's about magic. You get to do witchcraft. And
oh yeah, I saw that.
I used that one to act like a deity presiding over my devotee on the rooftop or the balcony of the academia.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have to check that out.
I mean, I only got it because it was indeed magic. It was fun to go over with.
You get to choose what type of magic you do?
Well, they have a spell book that you have to feel. It's like getting certain abilities. You have alchemy and some other stuff. So you get, for example, to freeze people. You turn them into a block of ice, and you also get to set furniture and people on fire. I had fun with it.
Yeah, I think I might go back and check that out.
There are 3 kinds of teacher in that expansion, and one of them has to do with alchemy. The other one has a mischievous type of twist, and I don't know what the blonde teacher actually does, but they have their own characteristics. So you learn what you need from them in order to fill your spell book, and you also get to train your own magic as you go, but it doesn't go beyond a certain limit. Once you fill something up, then you use the energy that refills, and that's about that. So that's the point where I stopped playing the game. There was nothing else to do there.
So I heard that there was 3 paths, so I guess that would represent the left, right, and middle, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay, all right. Cool beans. Appreciate everybody for coming here. This was a good conversation. We should do it more often. Speaking of working out, you know, I haven't been on here for so long, so it's like I used to go hard consistently every single week for years and years. And then once I stopped and stopped some more, it's been kind of difficult to come back. So I forced myself to do this live because I've got to come back into the swing of this thing. But this was good. I'm glad we did it. Might bring back the Sundays too, but definitely Saturday we're going to continue reading the book that we were just reading, Magick, Its Ritual, Power, and Purpose by W.E. Butler. So if you guys don't have this book yet, I highly recommend it. What did you guys think of the first 3 chapters so far? The first 4 chapters so far? I like it. I liked it so much that I thought that it should be shared with everyone.
I have been loving every second of it. When I ordered the physical copy, I was so excited I couldn't wait, so I got the digital copy to read. And then I was like, man, this guy. So then I got
Uh-oh, the volume is so down.
So I got 5 other of his books too, because I was just so happy with what was going on in the beginning with that one, and one right now that he has that I'm reading simultaneously, which is about clairvoyance, telepathy, and psychometry too, which has been a very enlightening read too. Which is just I'm so happy with all the book recommendations you come out with. So keep up the excellent work. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I've read all his books, and he's highly regarded. He's definitely somebody that you can learn from. One thing I love about him and Ophiel is that they're like advanced magicians, but they know how to talk to people without telling them that. It's like they come at people from like a very basic standpoint, like I'm just a guy who knows a few things, but the more you listen to them, you're like, whoa, this guy is actually way more advanced than he puts himself off to be. It's disarming, you know. I like that. Did you get his book? Yeah. Did you get The Lords of Light? That's one of my favorite ones too. But was that you, WT?
Yeah, I was gonna chime in and say I love that because it displays level of self-mastery. Like, they know damn well they're quote unquote badasses, yet they are humble enough and controlled enough in themselves to not lead with, you know, what the ahamkara might, with what the ego or other people may say. And I really, really love that approach. It's kind of like, I'm kind of channeling the Spider-Man type energy right now. And Peter Parker is a type of person that, you know, strong enough to go around with the toughest ones, but he'd rather stay and help cats out a tree. It's that level of surprise and just disciplining oneself that's very admiring.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael Green, for that donation. Michael Green says, Demons of Magic is a fire beginner Goetia book, guys. I agree. Demons of Magic is one of the best ones. Like I said, I've got most all the Goetia books that are out, and most all of them don't really add anything new. They'll be pretty much the same. Demons of Magic is one of those few that are different and add a unique approach. And right now it stands to be the best until mine comes out next month. All right. Also, if you're still here, I want to let you know in a few more days or so, maybe a week, I'm going to start releasing my podcast that I've been working on. We got a couple episodes out, but we're going to put them out one at a time. And yeah, I'm looking to interview people. So if you feel like you've got some magical, occult related stuff that you can talk about for about an hour or so, feel free to hit me up. It would be cool if you have your own social media with followers and stuff. But I mean, even if you don't, if you're just a regular person who practices magic, we're open to interview you as well. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be going forward. Right now we got about 10 episodes or so. So by the time we do interview you, it might come out January or so, maybe December. But anyways, if that's something you're interested in being a part of, hit me up. If you're just ready to listen to it, we'll be starting to release them soon. They'll be different from these live streams because it'll be focused on one topic with one person, and like I said, it'll be about 45 minutes to an hour. So apparently YouTube is getting into the podcast game, and when it comes to these social platforms, it's always smart to take advantage of the new stuff that they're doing because they give you more promotion because they're trying to test it out and see how it goes. They did that with the shorts, with the reels. If you're a content creator.
I'm excited to listen. Is it gonna have like no video? Is it gonna be like a true podcast thing? Or is it gonna be like some of them where there's like video, but it's just for the audio?
Well, my co-host is camera shy, so it's pretty much gonna be just audio. I think what we'll do afterwards is put imagery on like the short clips for YouTube, to promote, or TikTok or whatever. But yeah,
just wondering. That's cool. There's a lot of times where I can't watch because I'm like doing stuff and running around after small demons.
Yeah. I'll be summoning my small demon this weekend. Indescribable G says, I'd love an interview. All right, well, hit me up on Instagram and we can set a date. Like I said, it'll probably be December or January. I mean, we'll probably do it sooner than that, but it probably won't be out until December, January. All right, so a lot of people said that they'd be interested in a Goetia information. That's cool. So we'll keep going in this very direction because everything that I said today like I said, this is the fundamentals of the mechanics of the mages. Like, if you have this information as your core framework, you can do all the rest of that stuff. Divination with tarot and Kabbalah, like everything falls into this. And this is what I've come up with from my years and years of consistent study, like not just studying on the weekends and then doing something completely else 5 days out the week. This is what I've been doing for the past, let me see, maybe 5 years of consistent study. I've been able to distill it down to that framework of 5 major principles. The ontology, which is the whole framework of existence. The methodology, which is the 7 principles of how to keep your mind right. Authority, of knowing exactly why, through experience and knowledge, that you are God and that you do have the authority to control and dictate the spirits of nature. Communication, which is knowing how to communicate symbolically with the subconscious mind, aka the spirits. And finally, energy manipulation, how to actually move that prana up, down, and disperse it. Having those 5 things in place, you're unstoppable. So if that's what you're interested in, stay tuned. We're going to dig more into that every single time. Membership, we'll be having these meetings back on Thursdays. I'll probably be opening up a Sunday meeting for newbies, just to ask like newbie questions. But other than that, I will be seeing you guys at a later date. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Most
thank
of the time.
you.
Peace, Hecate. Thank you for being so pleasant, especially when I was not feeling pleasant.
Great to see you on the live again there, Trev. And glad to be here with all of you. You're all awesome. Peace, peace.
Thanks. Peace, peace. All right, everybody. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you all. Peace.